The weight of an entire ocean is pressing against this window. 4 inches of transparent aluminum. That's the only thing separating you from 5,000 meters of crushing seawater. If it failed, you wouldn't have time to scream. The pressure outside is so immense that in less than a second, everything inside this room would disappear. Yet every morning, 50,000 people wake up here, not on a ship, not inside a submarine, but in humanity's first permanent underwater city. Welcome to Hydropolis. While billions of people still live on the surface, an entirely different civilization has taken root beneath the Atlantic Ocean. Outside your apartment, there are no birds, no clouds, no sunrise, only endless darkness, broken by the ghostly glow of creatures that have never seen daylight. Above you, 5 kilometers of ocean. Below you, an endless abyss. And somehow, this is home. Forget everything you know about cities. Here, the air is manufactured, the water is recycled, the sunlight comes from millions of LEDs. Every meal, every breath, every heartbeat depends on machines working perfectly, because one major system failure could place an entire city in unimaginable danger. So why would anyone choose to build a city here, when the surface of Earth still has room to live? Because by 2050, the greatest threat to humanity may no longer come from the deep ocean. It may come from the land we once believed would always be safe. Why humanity left the shore? For thousands of years, the coastline was humanity's greatest advantage. Every great civilization was drawn to the sea. Trade, fishing, fresh water, opportunity. Cities like New York, Shanghai, London, Lagos, Dubai, all grew because the ocean connected the world. But then, the ocean began changing the rules. At first, the warning signs seemed small. A little more flooding each year, storms reaching farther inland, neighborhoods that once flooded every 100 years, now flooding every few years. People rebuilt, raised roads, built higher seawalls, installed larger pumps. For a while, it looked like humanity was winning, until one question changed everything. What happens when the ocean never gives the land back? Imagine standing in your childhood home, the street where you learned to ride a bicycle, now permanently underwater. The cafe on the corner, gone. The school you attended, hidden beneath the tide. This wasn't a disaster that lasted days. It became the new normal. Engineers eventually realized something shocking. Every new seawall solved today's problem, but made tomorrow's problem even more expensive. The higher the walls became, the more powerful the ocean seemed. It was like trying to stop a rising elevator by stacking more bricks beneath your feet. Sooner or later, the ceiling wins. That's when a radical idea began spreading through engineering labs. Maybe humanity had been asking the wrong question. Instead of asking, "How do we stop the ocean?" they began asking, "What if the ocean became our foundation?" That single idea changed everything. Not floating cities tossed around by storms, but permanent cities hidden safely beneath the waves. Far below hurricanes, far below giant waves, where the surface could rage above, while life continued peacefully below. It sounded impossible, until scientists started building the technology to make it real. But imagining an underwater city is the easy part. Actually building one is something entirely different. Because before anyone could sleep, work, or raise a family beneath the sea, engineers first had to solve a problem that has crushed almost everything humans have ever sent into the deep. How do you stop an entire ocean from crushing your city? Building a city the ocean can't destroy. The biggest challenge wasn't finding space beneath the ocean. There was plenty of that. The real challenge was surviving it. Imagine placing your hand against the wall of Hydropolis. On one side, warm air, comfortable apartments, children playing, people drinking coffee. On the other side, 5,000 meters of crushing ocean. Enough pressure to destroy an ordinary building in an instant. So why doesn't the city collapse? Because Hydropolis isn't built like a city. It's built like a spacecraft. Every apartment, every hospital, every school exists inside enormous pressure-resistant spheres. Not square buildings, not skyscrapers, spheres. Because nature discovered something engineers would later prove. When pressure comes from every direction, a sphere spreads that force better than almost any other shape. It's the same reason deep-sea submersibles aren't shaped like office buildings. But even these domes have a secret. The windows aren't ordinary glass. They're made from transparent materials stronger than steel by weight. Several thick layers work together. If one layer becomes damaged, the others continue protecting the city. Because underwater, there are no second chances. Now imagine looking outside your living room. A giant manta ray glides silently past. A school of glowing fish drifts through the darkness. In the distance, a blue whale appears like a moving mountain before disappearing back into the abyss. You aren't visiting an aquarium. You're looking out your apartment window. But here's something even stranger. The city repairs itself. Tiny cracks can appear over time as materials expand, contract, and endure years of immense pressure. On the surface, engineers send repair crews. In Hydropolis, the structure begins healing before most people even know there's damage. Researchers are already developing bio-inspired construction materials that can seal microscopic cracks on their own. By 2050, entire sections of the city could become partially self-healing, like coral reefs, growing stronger with age instead of weaker. Building the city also works differently. There are no traffic jams filled with cement trucks, no giant cranes standing over construction sites. Instead, entire neighborhoods arrive from the surface. Imagine watching an enormous residential module slowly descending through the blue water, guided by autonomous ships, positioned with incredible precision. Then, with a deep metallic click, it locks into the city's central structure. Power connects. Water begins flowing. Air pressure equalizes. Within hours, hundreds of new families can move in. The city doesn't expand one building at a time. It grows like living Lego bricks, one module after another. But building the world's strongest underwater city solved only half the problem. Concrete can't feed people, glass domes can't produce oxygen, and steel doesn't grow dinner. If 50,000 people are going to live at the bottom of the Atlantic, the city must learn to do something no civilization has ever done before. Create an entire ecosystem 5,000 meters beneath the sea. The city that breathes. The first thing you'd notice is the silence. No traffic, no airplanes, no wind, no rain tapping against your window. Only the quiet hum of thousands of machines, working every second to keep an entire city alive. Because down here, nature isn't helping you survive. Technology is. Take one deep breath. Now, imagine hearing this announcement. Oxygen production has dropped by 3%. On the surface, most people wouldn't even react. In Hydropolis, everyone stops. Because oxygen isn't something you simply breathe. It's something the city manufactures, every second, every minute, every day. The forests are gone. There are no trees outside, no fields, no fresh air drifting through an open window. Instead, entire districts of the city are dedicated to growing life itself. Tower after tower of glowing green plants rises toward the ceiling. Not because they look beautiful, but because they're the lungs of Hydropolis. Walk inside and suddenly everything changes. The air feels warmer, more humid. The smell of fresh herbs replaces the scent of filtered metal. After spending hours surrounded by steel corridors, this place almost feels like Earth. For many residents, it's their favorite place in the entire city. Not because of the food, because it's the closest thing to nature they'll ever experience. But the plants are doing far more than growing vegetables. They're cleaning your last breath. Every time you exhale, carbon dioxide enters the city's life support network. Within minutes, it reaches the green ring. There, thousands of carefully engineered plants absorb it. Fresh oxygen is released back into the city. Tomorrow, you could literally breathe air produced by the lettuce growing beside your lunch. The city doesn't just recycle water, it recycles life itself. And then there's breakfast. Forget supermarkets. Forget delivery apps. Forget trucks arriving overnight. Nothing arrives by road. Everything has to be produced here. Seaweed rich in protein, precision fermented foods, cultivated seafood, fresh vegetables grown under artificial sunlight. Scientists have even engineered foods that recreate the taste of familiar meals from the surface. Crispy bacon, without a single pig. Fresh milk, without a single cow. Not because it's trendy, because transporting food from the surface costs an enormous amount of energy. Every kilogram matters. Every calorie matters. Waste simply isn't an option. Now here's the part most people never think about. Where does yesterday's waste go? In Hydropolis, there is no away. Water is purified, again. Organic waste feeds bioreactors. Nutrients return to the farms. The farms produce tomorrow's meals. Almost nothing leaves the system. The city behaves less like a machine and more like a living organism. Every resource circulates, again and again and again. Living here almost feels impossible, until you realize something even stranger. Hydropolis isn't just surviving beneath the ocean. It's becoming one of the richest cities on Earth. Because hidden beneath the darkness lies a fortune worth trillions. And every morning, robots descend into the abyss to collect it. The trillion-dollar city. Surviving beneath the ocean is expensive. Every breath, every light, every kilogram of food requires energy, an incredible amount of it. So here's the question: who pays for an underwater city? The answer is hidden beneath the seafloor itself. Imagine boarding a transport capsule before sunrise. The doors seal shut. Outside, the city slowly disappears into darkness. Your destination isn't another neighborhood. It's a mining site, thousands of meters below, where no human has ever walked. Waiting for you are machines unlike anything on the surface. Not trucks, not excavators. Gigantic robotic crawlers, each one moving slowly across the abyssal plain. Their powerful arms collect strange, potato-sized rocks scattered across the seabed. At first glance, they don't look valuable, but appearances can be deceiving. These dark rocks contain some of the world's most important materials: cobalt, nickel, manganese, rare earth elements, the ingredients needed to build electric vehicles, smartphones, wind turbines, artificial intelligence hardware, and the batteries powering the future. What once looked like an empty desert turns out to be one of Earth's greatest untapped treasure chests. But the city's greatest discovery isn't buried in the rocks. It's hidden in the water itself. Hydropolis doesn't rely on coal or oil or massive solar farms. Instead, it harvests something the ocean creates naturally every single day: temperature. Near the surface, the ocean is relatively warm. 5,000 meters below, it's close to freezing. That difference becomes the city's power plant. Massive heat exchangers circulate a special working fluid through enormous pipes stretching toward the surface. As the fluid repeatedly heats, cools, expands, and contracts, It spins giant turbines, day after day, night after night, without smoke, without fuel, without waiting for the wind to blow. The ocean powers the city simply by being an ocean. Now imagine a hurricane tearing across the Atlantic. Cargo ships race for shelter. Coastal cities prepare for blackouts. Power lines snap. Entire regions lose electricity. Yet 5,000 meters below, Hydropolis barely notices. The storm never reaches it. Its lights remain on. Its homes stay warm. Life continues almost unchanged. For the people living here, the safest place during the world's worst storm may actually be at the bottom of the sea. Soon, companies from around the world begin moving here. Marine biotechnology, deep-sea robotics, ocean medicine, advanced materials. Hydropolis transforms from an engineering experiment into one of the world's most important economic hubs. People no longer move here just to survive climate change. They move here because opportunity has followed the deep. The ocean, once seen as humanity's greatest barrier, has become its newest frontier. But even with unlimited clean energy and access to unimaginable wealth, there was one problem money couldn't solve. No machine could fix it. No engineer could design it away. Because the greatest challenge wasn't outside the city. It was inside the human mind. What happens when you spend years living beneath an endless sky of darkness without ever seeing a real sunrise? The deepest loneliness. By every measurable standard, Hydropolis is a success. It has unlimited clean energy, fresh food, perfect air, thriving businesses, the safest homes ever built beneath the ocean. Yet despite all of that, one problem refuses to disappear. It isn't mechanical. It isn't financial. It's human. Imagine waking up tomorrow and never seeing another sunrise. Not for a week. Not for a month. For years. No golden morning light. No colorful sunsets. No drifting clouds. No moonlight reflecting across the sea. Only artificial daylight. Switched on by a computer every morning, and switched off again every night. Your apartment still has windows, but they don't overlook a city skyline. They overlook darkness. Sometimes a giant squid drifts silently past. Sometimes a glowing jellyfish lights up the water like a floating lantern. Sometimes you stare into the abyss for 10 minutes, and nothing moves at all. Just endless black water stretching in every direction. At first, most new residents love it. The silence feels peaceful. The ocean feels magical. Every trip outside the dome feels like exploring another planet. But after months, something begins to change. The human brain evolved beneath blue skies. It learned to measure time by the rising sun, the changing seasons, the movement of clouds, the rhythm of nature. Down here, none of those things exist. Doctors eventually gave it a name, the deep melancholy. Not because people are physically trapped, but because their minds begin to miss a world they can no longer touch. Some residents dream about rain. Others replay memories of walking barefoot on warm sand. Children born inside Hydropolis become fascinated by something they've never experienced: wind. To them, a tree moving in the breeze sounds almost mythical. Engineers tried to solve the problem. Entire parks were built beneath the domes. Artificial beaches stretched beneath giant LED skies. Massive digital ceilings recreated moving clouds, sunsets, even thunderstorms. Speakers filled the air with birdsong. Hidden machines released the scent of pine forests after simulated rain. Some rooms could recreate the sound of waves crashing onto a beach. even though the real ocean outside was completely silent. It wasn't just entertainment, it was therapy. Families gathered every evening beneath these artificial skies. Children chased butterflies that were actually tiny drones. Couples watched digital sunsets projected across enormous ceilings. For a few precious moments, it almost felt like home. Almost. Because everyone knew the real sky was still 5,000 meters above them. And then came the strangest discovery of all. Some people stopped wanting to leave. After years beneath the sea, the surface began to feel overwhelming. The bright sunlight hurt their eyes. The open horizon felt almost too big. The constant wind, the endless noise, the crowded streets, it all felt unfamiliar. Hydropolis had stopped being a temporary refuge. It had become home, an entirely new way of life. But if humanity can adapt to living beneath 5,000 meters of ocean, then one question becomes impossible to ignore. Maybe underwater cities aren't the end of our journey. Maybe they're only the beginning. Because if we can build a civilization in one of the harshest environments on Earth, what could stop us from building cities almost anywhere in the universe? The future below. The first people who crossed the oceans were called impossible dreamers. The first people who imagined flying were told humanity belonged on the ground. The first astronauts who left Earth stepped into a future that once sounded like science fiction. Perhaps one day, we'll say the same thing about the people who chose to live beneath the sea. Today, Hydropolis is only one city. Tomorrow, it could become 10, then 100. Entire underwater nations could one day stretch across the ocean floor, connected by high-speed transport tunnels, powered by the sea itself, protected from storms that rage far above. For future generations, living underwater may feel just as ordinary as living in a skyscraper feels today. But the greatest achievement won't be the domes, or the robots, or the engineering. It will be something much simpler: proof that humanity can adapt almost anywhere. The ocean, once seen as an obstacle, may become our next home. And if we can build thriving cities beneath 5,000 meters of water, then perhaps building cities on the Moon, on Mars, or even beyond our solar system won't seem nearly as impossible. Because every giant leap in history began the same way, with one impossible idea and one group of people willing to build it anyway. If you enjoyed exploring the future with us, you'll love our documentary Life Inside the Moon's First City, A Day in the Year 2045, where we imagine what everyday life could look like inside humanity's first permanent lunar colony. Then continue the journey with The First City on Mars, and discover how humans might build an entire civilization on the Red Planet. If you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe to FutureWealth Vision for more cinematic explorations of the technologies, engineering, and bold ideas that could shape tomorrow. Because the future isn't something we wait for, it's something we're already building.